This week, retirement announcements from the state legislature have come thick and fast. They're adding to an already lengthy list of departures. Now nearly a quarter of the assembly will be gone at the end of this session. That includes two of Dane County's longest serving representatives who, between them, account for nearly 40 years of service. Lawmakers Gary Hebl from Prairie, Sondy Pope from Mount Horeb. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you, Naomi.
So why now? Let's just start there. You're coming on a long line of others who are retiring or moving on to different positions. What kind of drove each of your decisions? Sondy, I'll start with you.
I came in when the district lines were redrawn, and that's happening now. And it seems like a good time to transition out and bring in someone new.
You know, I've been in this for nine terms, 18 years, and it has been the job of my life. I just love it, representing the district. It's smart. That's a great group of constituents, Prairie, Stoughton, Cottage Grove, and the villages in between, and it's been a marvelous run. And I feel like I'm at the top of my game. I've given it everything I can, and I just feel now it's time for me to turn the chapter.
I just referenced this in my opener, but I mean, between the two of you, so much institutional knowledge dating back to the very early 2000s in the legislature. So given that, do you feel like what we're seeing is a historic level of turnover?
Actually, I don't. The numbers may be greater this year. Again, I think because of the transition from one set of maps to a new set. The redistricting, drawing the lines is a pretty obvious time to move along if you're going to. But to me, it says that your government works the way it's supposed to. People come, people go. It's a representative government, and people really see the need to find something else to do and bring in new folks with new ideas. And it sort of lays to rest, in my mind, a call for term limits. We do this on our own, and as witnessed through this time.
Personally, for me, again, it's one of those things where you feel if you've done all that you can do, and you feel like you've reached the limit of your capabilities, it's time for new blood. It's time for new ones to come in and say that, new ideas, fresh ideas, and fresh approaches. Granted, 40 years of institutional knowledge is a lot, and we've dedicated, Sondy and I have dedicated our lives really to the legislature and to our constituents, and I feel really good about what we've accomplished, and it's time.
I have a little bit more negative thought about some of that, particularly after Act 10 was passed. I think the legislature has gotten far more partisan, not quite as civil as it used to be or could be, and it makes me want to caution voters, constituency, to keep your eye on democracy. It's extremely fragile.
You're both Democrats. What was different, though, back in, say, 2004, 2006, under, again, the legislature was still Republican controlled at that time. So what was so different from then versus now?
I can actually remember one of the early bills that came before the Education Committee. The bill, it was called the No Social Promotion Test, and it said all 4th graders, 8th graders, and 12th graders would take a test, which if they failed, their diploma would not be signed, they wouldn't move on to high school, and they would have to repeat 4th grade if they failed it. I am totally against those sorts of high-stakes tests, but parents showed up at the hearing, they testified, they explained why this was devastating to students, and not very helpful at all. And the committee that brought it forward and wanted it passed actually changed its mind. Hearings had meaning, and debate happened and made sense, and people thought about what they heard, and the bill did not pass. That wouldn't happen today. This is a fact that startled me. On the last day of session this year, I learned that almost 1,200 bills were written in our last session. Hundreds of those were written by Democrats. 7 of the Democrats' bills were given a hearing. 1 passed. That's startling. And that is not democracy, and it doesn't represent the people of Wisconsin. It represents a very small segment of people of Wisconsin. And there were times we had, were you around, Gary, when we had the Assembly baseball game?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Chief Justice Shirley Abramson was the umpire, I believe, and we played team against team. We had brats, we sang, we were friends. After session, people would go out and have meals together or drinks together, and we talked to each other. That does not happen anymore. Civility has escaped the building.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask both of you to think back of first your proudest moment as a lawmaker. Gary?
I would say Act 10 was when we fought tooth and nail for something we believed in. And actually, I was the last speaker on the floor after giving probably 100 speeches during that 72-hour period. And I was stuttering and just mumbling and stumbling, but had been up for 72 hours straight and making speeches to delay the enactment of Act 10. And we came together as a caucus and as a group, united in our belief that what was going on was wrong, and we were going to do everything we could to prevent it from occurring. The Senate left the state, and they protected us to a certain degree, but we were left to fight the battle for that defeat of Act 10. Granted, we didn't win, but the education of the populace in the state, they realized the effects of what would occur as a result of enforcement of Act 10.
One of the highlights for me was the night that Governor Evers was elected. Mm-hmm. It restored hope that had been lost for a long time and sort of gave me a renewed energy.
What about lowest moments, regrets?
Being in private practice, I'm a lawyer, and when I make a decision, I can act on it right away. In the legislature, they talk about it's like making sausage. It's not pretty, but the end result is a great result. It's frustrating to deal with the process and the delays and the fact that if I've got a great idea, if I've got a bill that's really going to help the citizens of Wisconsin, I need to get a Republican lead on that. I cannot have any bill pass with my name on it in order to get it through. So that's okay. I understand the system. That's how it works. But many of the bills that I've got through have no indication that it's my bill, and that's the process that works.
I can't come up with any regrets. I really can't. I will agree that Act 10 was devastating to the state, certainly to our party, and to public education, but no regrets.
What would you tell the person who fills your shoes?
Well, I would tell mine, your first and most important job is to represent your constituency. Get out there, know who they are, understand what they want, what they need, and work for them.
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and the idea there is that you need to listen twice as much as we talk. I don't learn anything by talking. I learn when I listen, and Sondy's exactly right. We need to listen to our constituents and act on their behalf. And it's really nice to have people like Sondy. So if you can elect people that are similar to her, if we could clone Sondy, we would have a fantastic legislature.
You guys going to miss each other as seatmates?
Terribly.
Yes, it will be. That's the hardest part, I would say, of this decision, is the fact that we've met so many wonderful people, made some great friends, and Sondy and I are seatmates, and we've shared a lot of difficult times, and it makes it a lot easier when you've got a friend who you can trust and count on, and she's certainly that.
Ditto.
Thank you.
We're going to close it off on that note. Just ahead, the connection between lagging state aid, declining college enrollment, and a struggling workforce.